Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. If you're into watches and you've looked at the watch media at all recently, you'll know that the Kering Group has just sold off Girard Perreguax and Ulysse Nardin, their only serious watch house. A lot of people have thought that this is fantastic news. These brands now have the opportunity to be independent and do more. I'm less confident of that. One, I've never seen any evidence that Kering has been holding Ulysse Nardin and Girard Perreguax back, making decisions on their behalf. You could argue that maybe Kering hadn't been giving them enough love and not enough investment, but I'm not sure how that's helped by making them independent. I don't see vast amounts of more resources coming in. So it's kind of been worrying me. I don't want to see a couple of brands die. And that got me thinking, if I was in charge, if I was the CEO of those two new brands, what would I do? And that got me thinking, what if I was CEO for a day of any brand? What would I do? And that got me making a video. So this video is going to be, and I ended up doing that, by the way, for lots and lots of brands. This video is going to be the first 10. Okay, quick interjection from Edit Sweet Pete. Doing the edit, turned out this video was way too long. I'm cutting it short. It's only going to be 5 brands today, and I'll take the other material and make another video of that and probably put that out tomorrow. Anyway, back to the video itself. The first 10 things I would do on one day if I was the CEO of that brand. If you're interested in my thoughts, see me on the other side of the intro. Obviously, we should start with Ulysse Nardin and Girard Perreguax. And you know what? I'm going to treat them as a single brand for this exercise, because that's what I was thinking. So if I was CEO of those guys today, what would I do? I would ring Ben Clymer and say, Ben, what do I need to do to get sold through the Hodinkee shop? What do I need to do to get you guys talking about me? Because both of those brands, but Ulysse Nardin in particular, is at best a marginal brand in the single biggest, robust, and probably most resilient today watch market, the United States. And Hodinkee is your gateway into that market. Will it make you? No, but it's your gateway to get in. And I don't think they can be successful without Hodinkee pushing them, which says terrible things about the market power of Hodinkee, but it is what it is. So yeah, if I was in charge of Girard Perreguax and Ulysse Nardin, my first phone call would be to Ben Clymer and say, Ben, what's it going to take, mate? Okay, so I'm going to try and oscillate between big brands and little brands. And whilst we've all heard of Ulysse Nardin and Girard Perreguax, in terms of watch sales, they are a little brand or little brands. So now I'm going to jump over to a big brand, Omega. What would I do if I was CEO of Omega for one day? I would split the catalog up. I've consistently said the single biggest thing with Omega is their catalog structure is confusing, makes it really hard to navigate, and worse, it hides great watches behind icons that just outshine everything else. The Aquaterra line makes no sense being buried deep within the Seamaster line. It must come out and be its own collection in parallel with the Seamaster. Likewise, the Speedmaster line is far too condensed, far too narrow. The instrument line must come out, and perhaps the 2 register line come out as maybe the racing line or something, and given its moment to shine, given its time in the sun. So if I was in charge of Omega, that would happen today. Every website around the world would be changed tomorrow. Swinging back to a smaller brand, what would I do if I was the CEO of Sinn? I would split the 556 line and create a new 600 line. The 556 is a wonderful watch. I absolutely love it. And it tries to do a lot. There's the hardcore printed dial, really utilitarian tool model, which is kind of core to the Sinn identity. But at the same time, there's more blinged up mother of pearl and gloss and applied indice models. My fear is those are the ones that Sinn needs to grow. Those are the areas. That dressy tool watch area is probably the gap in Sinn's armory that it needs to expand if it wants to grow as a brand. And I fear that as long as it's kind of part of the 556 line, it's going to be hemmed in, it's going to struggle. So I would take those watches out, create a 600 line that runs alongside the 556 line, and is your Oyster Perpetual, Chronomat 3-hander, Aquaterra kind of competitor, leaving your really hardcore tool model to be its own thing and to sing its own song and to tell its own story. Okay, moving from a small brand to the biggest brand in the watch world, one of the biggest brands in the world, full stop, Rolex. I'll be honest, I can't think of anything I could do to Rolex today that would improve them a great deal and keep them sustainable and maintain the trajectory that they want to go on. So the change I've got in mind for them isn't so much about improving where they're at, but rather increasing their resilience, and improving the sustainability of their place in the market, and perhaps helping them get to where I think they want to be. I think Rolex want to move upscale. They want to get more exclusive. They want to get higher end. They want their prices to go up, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I think that there's a natural ceiling on how far they can go right now, because as popular as steel sports watches are, as big as that brand is, whilst that's all pushing from behind, pushing from below, there's no haute horology at the top of the pyramid pulling Rolex up. And my fear would be, if I was in charge of Rolex, that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, if those market forces at the bottom were to change and I was to lose some of the power of that hype and that marketing and that FOMO that's driving where I am now, in the absence of something pulling my brand up, I could see my prices, my values, what people are prepared to pay for me fall quite precipitously. So what would I do tomorrow to start dragging that up? I would look at introducing tomorrow some sort of modernized, updated equivalent to the Jean-Claude Killy annual calendar Daytona. Not that watch, because Rolex doesn't do heritage reissues, but I would take that idea and drag it forward. And I would push that out and start producing that kind of haute horology, really top of the tree, pinnacle of watchmaking into the Rolex language, so that in the event that, as I said, all of those market forces currently pushing what is basically a maker of high quality but relatively simple sports watches, if that was to go away, I want something pulling it up. And I think that's what Rolex needs. Okay, so jumping from Rolex to a smaller brand, which I'm a big fan of, Alpina. This one for me was relatively straightforward. If I was the CEO of Alpina tomorrow, in fact, it wasn't, because there was a lot of things I think they should do. But the first thing is I would dump all of my low-end quartz stuff. Now that could actually cost me some money in the short term. That could well be a really big money maker. But I do think it also holds your brand back and diverts your thinking from where it should be. I think you want to keep quartz, that's fine. I think quartz watches fits the idea of outdoorsy and sporty and tooly for Alpina really well. I've got no problem with the idea of luxury sports watches and luxury quartz sports watches. I just think that cheap quartz sports watches are not where you want to be moving forward. Alpina has done a great job, I believe. Everything I've heard tells me that the Alpina Alive and the Alpina X have been very, very successful for the brand. I would take a leaf out of that and say what you want to be doing is creating on the normal watch side, the non-smart watch side, that same sense of something special. So yeah, pull the cheap quartz and replace it with thermocompensated super quartz along the lines of Longines VHP. You're in that kind of marketplace, you're in that kind of money area, but you're no longer selling yourself as a seller of cheap watches, but of rather high quality watches that are specifically designed for purpose. I think that's actually where Alpina does its best work, and I think that's what they should do tomorrow. Okay, so that was it. Those were the first 10 brands I looked at. Kind of a random selection, deliberately alternating big brand, small brand. I'm going to do another couple of these videos. They're kind of fun. I would love to know from you, what would you do for these brands? Or conversely, is there another brand that you think needs that one critical decision, and what do you think that would be? Love to hear it in the comments below. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches, and I'll see you later. Bye.